I'm Jess Doppler. I'm going to go over some of the vascular instruments that you'll see on most of the vascular cases we have here at Maine Med. Your fistulas and fempops and all that kind of stuff. This is our minor vascular tray, so it's our most used tray in vascular surgery. A lot of this stuff is the same as you'll see in your basic tray. You have mosquitoes, snaps, right angles, all the regular stuff. Some of the things we have that are specific to vascular include these fine jakes, which are basically like really fine mosquitoes. You'll use these a lot when we're tying off branches in saphenous vein that we're harvesting. And there's also long jakes, and sometimes we'll use these for dissection where we're getting down to the femoral artery or the other arteries we're trying to immobilize. So next up, we have some PD right angles. They're just smaller and finer than our regular right angles. And then we also have some cardiovascular right angles, which are also fine and really good for getting around vessels. Let's see. Next we have pot scissors. These are angled scissors. They're used to open up an incision on an artery. We have a long and a short in each of our kits. Most of our guys like the long ones. The short ones will be used for really fine, small vessels. Then we have endarterectomy scissors. They're a lot finer and sharper than a regular Metz. This is a Metz and this is your endarterectomy scissors. So the endarterectomies are used a lot to cut plaque, and some of the guys will call them Sharpies instead of endarterectomies, so Sharpies or endarterectomies. Next up we have Surratt needle holders. These are used when sewing with finer threads. Some of our prolines and 3OSHs are good for the Surratts. You'll also see the Surratts in the neurocranie kit. Those are the only two places you'll find Surratt needle holders.
Can you hold them up this way?
Ooh, that way?
Yeah, just gonna hold them up and show the difference. Great. And then maybe turn them this way so you can see the...
Jeff, you do it.
Okay.
Okay, so now on to the most important stuff you'll find in our minor vascular kit, and that's our minor vascular clamps. We have quite a few clamps, and there's some that are doubled, and there's one of three kinds that we have. So we're going to start with the smallest and work to our largest for the most part. These two are called our profunda clamps. And you'll use these a lot in our AV fistulas to clamp off the brachial artery. They're pretty fine, and yeah, I don't know what else to do. Profundus. And there's two that comes in each kit. I'm going to open them.
That's good.
Good. Alright. Moving on. Next up we have our POTS forceps. There's POTS clamps. There's three of them, and they all come in the minor vascular kit, and we come with one straight and two angled POTS clamps. You can tell the POTS clamps because they have this serrated edge. Look on the inside of that. And they also come to a bit of a taper at the end of them. So those are three POTS clamps. Oops, I'm going to put these over in our little... Next up we have a baby Satinsky, and this you'll find also in our major vascular clamp in bigger sizes, but this is our baby version of that.
Okay.
Next up is an angled femoral. And this kind of form follows function here, and you think about where your angled femoral is, and if you're digging down in a deep hole, this is really good at clamping off an artery and then staying out of the way as well, so you can still do your surgery. So that's the angled femoral. Next up, these two are called darted clamps. Someone taught me to remember these that they're shaped kind of like a duckbill. They're flat like a duckbill, duckbill dartic. At least that's how I remember them. And you have a slightly angled and an angled dartic in each kit. And last we have our cute little clamp. The real name for this is a Karshner, or I've also heard it called a Kirschner, but you can never hear anyone call it that here. Everyone here at Maine Med calls it a cute little clamp. Okay, so those are all our clamps. Moving on, we have some forceps that are also specific to the minor vascular kit. We have a pair of platypus forceps, and if you look at these, they've got a flat serrated edge, and that can be used to grasp suture when you're suturing down in a hole and try and keep it out of the way. So they'll use these a lot of times when they're either suturing way down in an abdominal hole, or if they're actually suturing with really short string and they can't get their whole hand in there to hold it, they'll put their platypus forceps in there. Next, we have two pairs of forceps that are used for sewing. These are called these are called Cooley forceps, and these are pots, and they're both used for sewing to be able to grab onto needle and thread really well. You'll use these when you're sewing with proline. You can see they have different serrations down both of them. And lastly, we have pairs of Geralds in our kit as well. And these are fine forceps they'll often use when they're also sewing. What else do you want me to do? You want me to go over all these? Okay, so next. This is called a beaver blade handle, and what we use with this is this unscrews, and you actually put a fine blade right in here, and that can be used a lot of times to etch out plaque that's in an artery. And these three instruments are used also to try and get plaque out of an artery. So this is our dental, Penfield, and Freer. And when they're used is specific mostly to the surgeon. Most of our guys like to use the dental and the Penfield. Some of them will use the Freer as well. And lastly, this is a nerve hook, and that's used when we get a knot in our proline and they want to pick it out. So along with all our regular vascular clamps we have, you also have the bulldogs. And the only bulldogs that have a specific name are these two, and they're called Gregory bulldogs. The rest of them will just be called the name and how they're described, basically. So a small curved or large straight, something like that. And usually if there's two, I try and test which one has the least amount of spring to it, and I'll give them that one because that's a little bit less traumatic on the vessel. And then we have dilators. These dilators go from 1 to 5 in increments of 0.5, and they're used sometimes they'll put them through a vessel to try and size up that vessel or to test how large the diameter of that vessel is. So they go incrementally. So yeah, you get the idea. And lastly, we have Castro forceps, and these Castro forceps are used when they're sewing again with fine prolines, so 4-0, 5-0, 6-0, 7-0 prolines. You'll use these. They have a ratchet at the end of it that you squeeze to engage and then squeeze again to disengage. Disengage? There we go, disengage. What else can I tell you? I think that's really, sorry, last but not least, these are clip appliers, and these clips can be used to, instead of ties, to tie off a vessel. Want to load them, make sure that you're pressing straight down onto the clip and pulling straight back up. You don't want to squeeze these handles at all because that'll close your clip and then you'll be out of clip. So we have both a medium, which are silver, and blue, which is small. I think that's it. I don't really have anything else to say. If you guys have any questions or anything, come find me. I'm in the halls. I'm here almost every day. So, yeah, let me know if you have any questions about vascular cases.